Hey guys, it's Leo Stargazer. I'm here today with a self-guided pick a crystal reading in honor of Mercury entering Sagittarius. I've chosen two crystals for you to choose from, along with an oracle deck and a tarot deck associated with each of those. Ponder these. Think about Mercury and Sagittarius, where Sagittarius is on your chart. Think about all of these things. Which crystal are you drawn to? Choose one, and we will do a reading to give you some guidance on how Mercury's transit through Sagittarius will be affecting you. So take a deep breath, ponder both of these crystals, ponder the decks, and then make a choice. Okay, for those of you who chose Aventurine, we will do your reading now. Green Aventurine is associated with Mercury, and your intuition is drawing you towards Mercury, meaning that Mercury's archetypes are going to be really influential for you as Mercury transits through Sagittarius. Mercury in Sagittarius is going to really highlight our intellectual pursuits. How our intellect drives us forward is going to be a big part of its transit. Mercury comes up against a square to Saturn pretty quickly into its transit through Sagittarius, and so boundaries are also going to be really important. So I'm hopeful that this spread will help you understand how your intellect, your sense of information, how you use your smarts to propel yourself forward. This spread is going to have a lot to say about that, hopefully. So as Mercury transits through Sagittarius, I want you to focus on Mercury's archetypes. Because you are being drawn to Mercury, I think there really is a sense that some kind of study, some kind of intellectual stimulation is going to be crucial. But before I get too far ahead of myself, let's let the tarot speak and let's get started with our oracle pair. For those of you who chose Aventurine, I chose for our oracle deck the Vera Sibilla. I wanted this Italian oracle deck to speak to us and help us get kind of a pragmatic approach, a more straightforward oracle pair to start out the spread. Since you were drawn to Mercury, I want to keep things focused and, a little intellectual. But let's just draw our pair. The first card in the pair is Love. The next card in the pair, rounding it out, is the Soldier. Okay, Love and the Soldier. That is a very interesting pair. I think what we're seeing here is that, and again, in honor of Mercury, I think there's this idea that maybe that intellectual pursuit is guided by a sense of strict passion. That's kind of how I'm reading this. I think there's this idea that there's this discipline, but also this really passionate, loving approach to your intellectual pursuits over these next few weeks. That's the Mercury element, but I do also see just on this card, in this pair on its own, there is this idea that discipline in love is important. That maybe being guided by your intellect, while that is what you were drawn to do since you were drawn to Aventurine, I do think though that love showing up here throws a little bit of a curveball. I think if there's ever a time during Mercury's transit through Sagittarius that you feel really overwhelmed by love or passion or romance, when you're really swept off your feet, I think that's beautiful. But I think with the Soldier showing up, there needs to be a sense of focus and discipline around that. So when you start to feel that feeling, I think this idea that, well, you don't need to reel it in any way, but that adding an intellectual approach to that, a disciplined intellectual approach to that is kind of important. And I know that may sound really complicated. It feels complicated to me. What I think it means is that because Mercury has so much to go through as it goes through Sagittarius, it'll actually retrograde back into Sagittarius from Capricorn a little bit later in the year. There is this sense that you need to apply an intellectual approach, meaning a pragmatic approach, a focused approach to any kind of overly passionate moments. There's a sense here of disciplined love. There's a sense here of focused love, of a driven, almost militaristic love. This idea that there may be some deep, intense passion and romance and all of this stuff, but then with all of that, there's this sense of almost having to be really regimented in how we approach that. Well, I think Mercury, since you were drawn to Mercury, I think focusing on Mercury is more important than focusing on the militarized element of this. I think there can be a sense of focus and discipline in how you approach your love life or things you're super, super passionate about. In the Vera Sibilla, how love shows up is as Cupid here. And I think that's really important because it might show that there may be a suddenness to what you're passionate about or a sudden love interest, something like that. And with the soldier, I think we just need to be a little bit more focused. There may be a sense of discipline. There may be a sense of really intense commitment that comes along with that. And letting our intellect guide instead of our blind passion might be the best choice. But let's look at the tarot to get a clearer picture. For our tarot deck today, I chose the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Again, I kind of wanted to keep things simple in order to stay really focused. I don't want to lose focus. I want Mercury and the fact that your intuition guided you to Mercury to lead the way. So let's stay smart, let's stay focused, let's stay committed to all of those themes. Okay, we'll be doing 3 cards, and the first card I draw is the 5 of Wands. The next card is the Page of Swords, okay? And finally, for the complete picture, the Lovers. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. These 3 tarot cards reflect the oracle pair in a way I did not expect, in a way that is almost so on the nose that it's hard to believe, but here it is. It also, though, may explain, and the very first card helps explain why or what this disciplined, militarized kind of idea was maybe hinting towards, and that's the 5 of Wands. The 5 of Wands stands for and represents some kind of competition. So it could be that whatever that romance is, whatever that passion is, that part of that situation for you involves some kind of competitiveness, some kind of competitive edge, hopefully. Either way, though, there's an idea that there is an engagement with others and that there is some kind of, if not battle, there's some kind of competition revolved around presumably that idea of love. Now, the next card was the Page of Swords, so another intellectual card coming up in honor of Mercury, I believe. The Page of Swords is getting perspective. The Page of Swords is the essence of intellect to a degree. The Page of Swords is, if not the essence of intellect, definitely the idea of study, the idea that there is a commitment to the intellect. It's a page, though, so there's this idea of this new approach, perhaps. And because it's a Page of Swords, I think there's this idea of perspective. Not, kind of head in the clouds, for sure, but more grounded than that. It's interesting juxtaposed against the 5 of Wands because there is this idea of staying above it all, but also being really in the fray. So throughout Mercury's transit through Sagittarius, you may be caught between both of those things. I think the idea with the page, though, is get perspective. If the competition starts to feel a little bit too much, get perspective. But then the final card we got was the Lovers. So the Lovers, in conjunction with the Love Oracle card, shows me that somehow Mercury's transit through Sagittarius is going to end up providing you with access to a lot of love. The Lovers implies that it's probably more one-on-one, so that's interesting, and it adds an interesting element to the Love Oracle card. But all of these cards in combination, and the fact that you were drawn to Mercury, shows me that with a pragmatic, intellectual approach, gained from some kind of perspective, some kind of study, if that approach is activated through engagement with others, through a disciplined focus, you have access to some really smart, really clever, really beautiful love. And that is incredible. I think all of these cards together show that your intuition led you to Mercury. Mercury, even if we don't think so, can give us access to a ton of love if we engage. So let's do that. Throughout Mercury's transit through Sagittarius, never lose sight of love. Fight for it, study for it, get perspective on it. It's worth it. Smart love is the key. I'll see you next time. Okay, so for those of you who chose turquoise, I will start your reading now. If your intuition guided you to turquoise, you are being guided to Sagittarius. Mercury's transit through Sagittarius is going to be a lot about intellectual pursuits, and Mercury goes through a lot as it transits through Sagittarius. The first thing it does is it butts up against and makes a square to Saturn. After that, Mercury will leave Sagittarius and enter Capricorn, but then on its retrograde that happens in December, it'll make its way back into Sagittarius to review even more of those themes. So without getting too deep into that, your intuition guided you to Sagittarius via turquoise. This means that your intuition is trying to tell you that all of Sagittarius's archetypes, all of these archetypes associated with Sagittarius, are going to be really important to you as Mercury transits through it. So optimism, ambition, drive, journeys, all of these themes are really yours this cycle, this transit. Mercury is basically going to set the stage in Sagittarius for when the Sun and then Mars also enter Sagittarius. And the way that I'm seeing that is that Mercury's transit is going to help us see some options to take advantage of Sagittarius's best qualities. So since you were drawn to Sagittarius, I'm hoping that this spread can really help us understand directionality for you, ambition for you, and hopefully give us a little optimism as we look ahead. I chose for our Oracle deck the Lenormand. I want the Lenormand to start this deck out. I'll be doing a pair from the Lenormand deck. I want that pair to help set the basis for the spread and give us a more pragmatic approach to this directionality. Then I chose the Ancient Italian deck as our tarot deck, a Marseille deck, in order to give us a little bit more, of course, focus, but also provide an added sense of depth and maybe a little bit, and maybe broaden out our approach a little bit more. So hopefully we can do that. But before I get too far ahead of myself, let's get right to it. So as I shuffle the Lenormand deck, let's just take a breath, focus on turquoise, think about where Sagittarius is in your chart, and let's draw our pair. The first card I draw is Heart. Okay. The next card to round out the pair is the Book. Wow. Okay. Well, getting the Heart and the Book, I think, is Mercury speaking to us, even though you chose turquoise and we're guided towards Sagittarius. I think that getting the Book and the Heart it's Mercury's way of showing up. I think the Book and the Heart are also interesting, just as a side note, because earlier this week, Venus entered Libra. So I think maybe it's a little bit of Venus speaking to us as well. So regardless, though, in this situation, we wanted the Lenormand to give us a pragmatic approach. Well, it gave us that, but it also broadened it out a little bit more than I expected. But Heart and the Book shows me one of two things. It shows me that there is a sense for a love of some kind of educational, intellectual pursuit. First, it shows me that during Mercury's transit through Sagittarius, and this makes so much sense, you may be drawn to and really passionate about a pursuit of the intellect, some kind of study, which would make a lot of sense for Sagittarius. And this idea that your directionality, your ambition may be focused on some kind of passionate intellectual journey that you're beginning as Mercury enters Sagittarius. It could also mean that there's some kind of hidden love, some kind of hidden romance that is somewhere around you right now. There's a chance with the Book in the Heart that there is a hidden love, and that could potentially be found in or through this intellectual pursuit, and it could also be revealed as Mercury goes through Sagittarius. So I think it's very interesting. Let's get to the tarot though to see if there is any other clarity around that. I'm sure there will be. Okay, so as I get started on my shuffle, let's look at this Lenormand pair of the Heart and the Book. Obviously, Mercury has something to say showing up through the book, so let's contemplate those cards just for a bit. And then let's get the complete picture with this tarot. Okay, 3 cards. The first card is the 5 of Cups. The second card, the Empress. And finally, the Emperor. Wow. Okay, well, I am very blown away by the spread, how it's turned out. I am really interested in how it relates to Sagittarius. But let's get started with the 5 of Cups. The 5 of Cups, I think, shows up as a little bit of a balancing moment, a little bit of a moment to remind us that some stuff is still going to be maybe a little challenging. But the other promise of the 5 is that if we focus the right way, or we respond to the 5 of Cups the right way, that we can really create a forward directionality. However, on its own, the 5 of Cups can kind of represent fear, it can represent loss, it can represent a turning away from the external and looking internal. It can also be, it can be a lot of different things around focusing on negative. Well, you chose Sagittarius, you chose Turquoise, you were guided to Sagittarius. Your intuition guided you here. And I think because of that, there's this sense of Sagittarius's forward-lookingness that really is essential here. And I think that the 5, like I said, shows up as kind of a balance. It could also be that what's hidden, that love that's hidden, maybe is just implying that some kind of positivity, some kind of love, some kind of passion is maybe hidden behind stuff you're kind of worried about. Maybe it's hidden behind your fears. Maybe it's hidden behind you over isolating, and that maybe branching out will open you up to that. There's the potential there. I think that might be it though, also because we got the Empress next. And again, I remember what I said when we got the Heart. I felt like it may be a little bit of Venus talking here. Well, the Empress shows me that that's probably true. Venus entered Libra, and while this is about Mercury and Sagittarius, I think Venus in Libra may be something for you to look to find the balance that may be required. For you to uncover those hidden truths, for you to engage in your intellectual pursuits, and for those to be directionally forward, I think that focusing on love, passion, but also balancing that is going to be crucial for you. And like I said, moving away from fear, moving away from negative thinking and towards positive thinking. With all of that in mind though, the final card was the Emperor. The Emperor is about structure. If you remember, I also said that Mercury and then the Sun and then Mars, as they all enter Sagittarius, will come up against a square with Saturn. And while Saturn is in Pisces, meaning that there will be more fluid boundaries, the Emperor here shows up to remind us of those boundaries. It's very important that as we engage in these love pursuits, as we engage in a passion with the intellect, as Mercury speeds through Sagittarius, there are going to be moments where structure is going to be key. Getting the Emperor and the Empress in the same spread, though, definitely also speaks to balance. So Venus in Libra is going to be important. Love in balance is crucial. So all in all, I think because you were guided towards Sagittarius, you definitely understand that Mercury's transit is going to be formative for you in that it's going to help you look forward. Getting the Oracle pair that we did, getting the Lenormand pair that we did, shows me that there is a passion in education, but there also could be a hidden love. The Five of Cups reminds us balance is important. The Empress and the Emperor remind us of that as well. And this hinting back to Venus in Libra is also really, really key too. So think about how you can provide structure to your intellectual pursuits, how those pursuits could help reveal love. And then use all of that to conquer your fears, stop thinking negatively, replace pessimism with optimism, turn towards what is inspiring for you, and study that. I think that's the key as Mercury moves through Sagittarius. Inspiration. I hope you find it, and I will see you next time. Okay, so having done both of those spreads, I really see one common theme. One feature stood out in both spreads and refused to be ignored, and that was love. Love cards representing love, literally love cards, showed up in both spreads and throughout them had a lot to say. I think this is, even though this was a reading about Mercury and Sagittarius, a couple days ago, Venus entered Libra, and I think this was Venus's way of coming in and reminding us all of her. Mercury is going to go through a lot in Sagittarius, and we will learn a lot about our intellectual pursuits, about our directionality, about optimism, ambition, but we're also going to learn a little bit about flexible boundaries. Well, we cannot forget that while all this is happening, Venus is going and transiting through a sign it rules. It's transiting through Libra, where we will have love in balance. Love and the intellect, passion and the intellect need to unite for us during the next few weeks. The importance of study, the importance of pursuing our goals and bettering ourselves is key. And doing that in an intellectual and a focused way is going to be really important. But we cannot lose sight of balance. And in this case, that balance is with love, beauty, passion, and pleasure. So while we're studying, while we're striving, while we are learning, let's also love. Let's bring in passion, find beauty in that journey, balance it with beauty, art. Let's combine these two archetypes, Venus and Mercury, Libra and Sagittarius. Let's unite all of that to better ourselves intellectually and through love. Sounds like a lot to do. Each spread gave us an indication of how we should approach that exact connection, that exact balance. And our readings that we did for Venus in Libra also did that. I think those are really complementary, so be sure to check that out too. Regardless, I do think that because love was the thread that connected each of these readings, let's leave it with love. Let's use Sagittarius's optimism. Let's use Mercury's smarts. Let's use Venus's love and Libra's balance to be smart and loving, ambitious and balanced. We can combine all those things. I hope you do. I will see you next time.